Before we go to the next debate, I would first like to thank our partners. Our partners are not sponsors. They are. There's no advertising, no stand, no advertising or promotion. So they are real sponsors. We've heard a lot of criticism about all of these healthcare companies who are just doing their job. And I would like to give them a round of applause because I think their image has been unfairly criticized in the media. Now we're going to enter the next debate on between secrecy and transparency, what distance? So we will, Luc Ferry, Laurent Alexandre, Vincent Lanata, and the moderator, Eric Orsena. Gérard Raymond as well.
Monsieur Luc est demandé au parloir. Monsieur Luc Ferry est demandé au parloir.
Luc Ferry, we're paging Luc Ferry. Well, we'll be starting without our philosopher and without our former minister. We will be talking without this ladies' man. Maybe that explains why he's a bit late. Here he is. Wonderful talent. You know what Sacha Guitry used to say? Madam is late. That means she will be coming. So secrecy and transparency. This is a time for coming out. Now, between secrecy and transparency, Guy Valencien was quite mischievous. He asked a novelist, and here I'm wearing my novelist hat to moderate this debate. You know that for a novelist, secrecy is our primary raw material because we often reveal family secrets. This is why I'm very interested in seeing what we're going to do with this notion of secrecy. I would just like to recommend a book called Éloge de l'ombre by Tanizaki. It's a fascinating book to see. So it's praise of the shadows, to see what shadows are in a civilization, the necessity of shadows. And Stendhal also said, I love countries where we need shadows. And so here we're talking about shadows today. What is a society without shadows or secrecy? To explore this question, I don't want to insult the other roundtables, but we have the best at our roundtable, I must say. As you know, writing doesn't prevent people from being a bit demagogical because we want to reach every single audience. So we have a philosopher on my left. We have an anthropologist. We have head of an association. Mr. Laurent Alexandre actually does everything. He does everything. How can I describe him? He's everything. He does everything. He's everywhere. And we have a general. I would like to salute you. I once was under your orders during my military service, so I thank you for this wonderful military experience I had in my youth. So, Luc, my dear Luc, what purpose does secrecy have in society? Okay, off we go. Now you have 2 hours to write your answer and turn in your exam in 2 hours. No. Secrecy has been something that's protected us and betrayed us for centuries. You know that sometimes a text message that arrives at the wrong time it's the first cause for divorce today, statistically. And that's true. And the paradox that I'd like to place on the table here, but I'll be quite brief, is that we live in a society of transparency, absolute transparency, way beyond what our fellow citizens imagine. And we, at the same time, live in a society of total opacity. So that's the paradox. Why do we say absolute transparency? You know this here, perhaps, but not all of our citizens are aware of the fact that everything that we exchange by text message and email on the social networks, everything that we exchange is can be disencrypted. Nothing is secret. No text message, no email, no phone call is secret. It can be decoded in some way or another. As to the social networks, everything that you put on the social networks, even if it's Messenger, even if it's in the private boxes, it can be uncoded. And it probably will be. So this is a real problem. If you have a serious disease and you talk to this about your wife, she talks to her sister or to a friend, one of your children is aware, this can be put onto the social networks, and then it may land in the hands of insurance companies. I'm the president of the Scientific Council for the École Polytechnique in the insurance sector. It's very interesting to see how they work. And everything is uncoded. Remember, the former president of the Republic, President Sarkozy, was listened to during his private conversations with his wife, with his children, on a telephone that was supposed to be completely protected with a secret name. Even the secret services who told him, yes, you can use that telephone, Mr. President. Well, actually, he was still listened to. Some people may say, well, that's wonderful. Even the president of the French Republic is a citizen like others. People may also find, I think it's a scandal personally, but everything can be listened to and uncoded. And this, not only insurance companies, but in other areas, this may cause huge problems. It can be the insured party himself who may tell the insurance company that he doesn't smoke, that he doesn't drink, that he has a good genetic test, and that he should have a discount on his insurance premiums. So you see that it's not always the insurance companies that will need to spy on people, but in terms of big data, everything is accessible. Big data is open data. Now, the second part of my remarks that I'll try to make quite brief. We live in a society of total opacity. Why? Well, because my friend Laurent Alexandre mentions this in his excellent book, The Death of Death, and also The Defeat of Cancer. I read both of those books. I found them fascinating. This NBIC revolution, which is in the American report on the NBIC's new technologies, I think the report came out in 2002, 2004, if I remember correctly. I think 2004 or 2003, the first report. It's very interesting because there are two major reports, one American, and I read them this week, and another European, and they're completely opposed to each other in terms of the spirit. The Americans are absolutely in favor of these new technologies, and the Europeans are breaking with both feet. And I heard one person who said to me, listen to the words here. We in the United States, when we look at big data, when we think big data will allow us to compare billions of cancer cells and to solve the problem of cancer, Google has invested money here. When we talk about big data, we think about the services rendered to the consumers, services to the consumer. You, the Europeans, and especially the French, you think in terms of the protection of the citizen, service, consumer, and protection of the citizen. He said it's not at all the same mindset. We have the GAFA and you have the CNIL, the protection of privacy. It's as though one car has no brakes and the other has no accelerator. So in this world of new technologies, nanotechnologies, biotechnologies, IT, artificial intelligence, cognitivism, we need to add stem cell research, hybridization. All of these new technologies are extremely complex. My friend Etienne Klein wrote a report for me on nanotechnologies. It's very complicated if you look in the details. In this Insurance Polytechnical Institute, before being a member of their scientific council, I asked one of their data scientists to make a presentation on what his profession entailed. It's extremely complicated. It requires mathematical skills that are extremely sophisticated. Just the word big data and nanotechnologies, this can occupy an entire life. How can you imagine that our fellow citizens can understand all of this? In the Senate or the Parliament, we would have a lot of surprises. Just big data and connected objects and the Internet of Objects, we would have some surprises. How can you expect politicians to regulate we do have the CNIL in France who protect people's privacy. How do you imagine regulating these innovations if people don't understand them? There's this total opacity concerning these new technological developments. They're coming out so fast and they're so technical that no normal human being can perfectly understand what's going on. So you see there's this total transparency on the one side and complete opacity on the other. And this is the society in which we're living. It's fascinating. I'm not pessimistic. However, I'm in favor of the GAFA myself, but it does pose extraordinary problems, and it will take a long time to develop them here. There are many of them. I wrote a short book on this because I'm fascinated by the topic. In this little book, there is one very positive chapter that I've included because I think there will be a lot of benefits for humanity from these new technologies. And Laurent Alexandre's book goes in the same direction. He's very prudent in his books. He opens a lot of umbrellas. But the second chapter is to open these umbrellas because there are many risks. We're reaching the technical limits of democracy. I think democracy is being overpassed or surpassed by these technologies. It's imbalanced in terms of the power and the speed and the technicity or technical levels of these revolutions. And there's some interesting books. And I think my book will be very interesting, and Laurent Alexandre's books are fascinating. Yes, we'll make sure to read that new book of yours. Now, we were talking about transparency, but now let's look at this question of opacity. Just a little passage outside of the medical world, the question of banking. You know that one of the elements of the crisis of 2008 was this opacity. People didn't understand how people were swapping these titles, etc. And with this complete drift of these mathematical skills, they're now employing the most brilliant mathematicians who are masters of abstraction to create these models, to create a little smoke around what's really going on, and a smoke screen. And this was a key to that crisis. And I have a conviction in terms of this question of democracy as well. We have no command of this anymore because we don't understand it. And I think when there are all these different technologies come out, where is the forum to discuss this? Now, Sylvie Finzon, you're an anthropologist. I think you would like to add to this. When I said, what is the purpose of secrecy in a society and what is the purpose of lies? Among many books, there was a book called Information and Lies. Why are lies useful? We know that in a married couple, is a decisive tool, but what about in real life, in the rest of life? Well, I won't be talking about lies in life in general. I will talk about lies in the healthcare sector. And to make a link with the notion of secrecy, it's true that often secrecy is something that's used to hide confidential information from others, the medical secrets. But we realize that in reality, secrecy is also a notion that's used to discuss information hidden from the patient himself.
There's a lot of medical literature on that issue. That is to say, should we tell the patient the truth or hide it? And it's the word secret that comes back constantly. I'm thinking of what Maurice Aviven said about truth. He said that truth was necessary because otherwise the patient would become anxious. So in point of fact, there is a lie that occurs frequently in medical circles for a good reason, because the people who hide things or lie to the patient do so in the patient's interest. Or at least that's what they're saying. It's probably what they believe as well. Having said that, it is true that it's based on an ethic principle, the principle of doing good, on not doing any harm to the patient. Except that the first issue that is raised is whether a doctor is capable of assessing the patient's interest to start with. How can he actually decide what's good for the patient? And one realizes that it's based on the same principles that the doctor will defend something quite opposite, because some defend truth and others lies. What patient? That also, so which patient should you, how should you approach each patient? Also, you're president of the French Association of Diabetics. Now, that type of association with that many people who belong to it, what is their use to start with? Is it to know more about the truth, or to connect up these patients who are isolated? How does it work? And then I'll ask you some questions on the disorders that are not fortunate enough to have that sort of association, or orphan diseases. I'm doing my MOOC here with a lot of teachers. Well, we all are. We're talking about revolutions. We're talking about revolutions in the system. Patients' associations are going through a revolution too, because in the at the beginning of the millennium, they were sort of friendly associations. They organized activities for the patients that they got together. And the patients went. They were very happy to do so. The HIV Association and others considered that they ought to become players and a force in civil society to get the health sector to change. We talked about health democracy. Today, the patients' associations continue to grow. But the way they operate has changed due to new technologies. And how do the Patients Association become actors in the health sector today? Well, they're now people who have their word to say, like all the other players. And I think I can say that we prefer to talk to the patients. Stop putting your hands on your hearts and saying we're doing everything we can for the patient. Find out what we need. Ask us what we want. Let's work together. Let's build up this new society, this new health system, in particular with all the chronic pathologies and the new communication systems and technological devices, not only connected but connectable devices. Things that will enable the patient to have data as well. I went to a seminar a few weeks ago about our data, so that we really do trust each other. We want to be real players. We want to be independent, transparent. Once again, we also have to make an effort to be totally transparent and use this transparency. The public authorities have to understand our position. We need not only transparency, but financial independence. And we need to be constructive players as well, a force that can come up with proposals. And today, unfortunately, I have to say we haven't got to that point yet. We're going to have to be very provocative to get our voice heard. And to continue being heard, because we...
Nous voulons qu'on nous écoute et qu'on fasse avec nous. Demain, vous ne ferez rien sans nous. Donc c'est avec nous que nous travaillerons sur que doit être le secret, cette bienveillance du médecin, comment on l'a construit. Parlons pas du colloque singulier, parlons pas de l'annonce du diagnostic, etc., etc. Mais comment les relations avec les professionnels de santé doivent se construire. Comment elles doivent s'animer, c'est de l'humanisme, on n'est pas des machines, il va falloir créer de l'humanisme, et la technologie doit créer de l'humanisme. Comment demain, ce système de santé est révolutionné, et la société aussi, totalement transformé, comment on va pouvoir parler de démocratie, comment on va pouvoir parler d'égalité, comment on va pouvoir parler de solidarité, puisqu'on voit bien que toutes ces innovations technologiques créent plutôt des inégalités.
Alors, concrètement, d'abord, on voulait vous rassurer, Luc et moi, vous avez un très grand talent d'expression. Donc, pas de problème. Vous passez en Master 2 sans aucune difficulté. J'ai bien vu la différence entre pour nous et avec nous. Alors, dans le petit film, on voyait une dame diabétique. Et puis le professeur Tournesol qui, à distance, comme ça, lui disait quel traitement, est-ce qu'il y avait un moment d'alerte ou non. Est-ce que vous êtes impliqué de manière générale sur cette évolution de la télémédecine? Est-ce que vous êtes impliqué aussi de manière régionale? Est-ce que vous avez voilà, pour essayer de dire, avec vous, enfin vous, diabétiques, comment ça marche? Parce que, évidemment, les données sont transmissibles. Comment ça marche et quelles sont les conditions pour lesquelles ça pourrait marcher? On a un cas concret, là.
Oui, ça commence. Et le diabète a toujours été pionnier dans l'évolution. L'éducation thérapeutique, les diabétologues ont bien compris qu'il fallait éduquer le patient. Parce que venaient de sortir des outils de lecture de glucose qui nécessitaient au patient de pouvoir avoir sa glycémie à tout moment. Donc il fallait bien l'éduquer, ce patient. L'éducation thérapeutique est la double peine. On est thérapeutique malade et il faut nous éduquer parce qu'on n'est pas assez intelligent. Donc nous avons la double peine là. Donc on nous a éduqués à être relativement autonomes, mais toujours quand même avec le savoir dirigé. Aujourd'hui, ce que nous disons, c'est que bien sûr, et dans les outils connectés, bon nombre sont pour les patients diabétiques, on l'a vu. Moi-même, j'ai beaucoup d'appareils aujourd'hui, des capteurs qui surveillent ma glycémie en permanence, une pompe implantée, etc., etc. Donc tout cela fait partie de notre vie, mais nous appartient à nous. Et donc ce que nous disons aux chercheurs, au pouvoir public, aux start-up et autres, avant de penser pour nous, réfléchissons à nous, voilà, et construisons ensemble. Voilà pourquoi notre structure associative a créé un Living Lab qui s'appelle le Diabète Lab, et je fais ma publicité, après tout, pourquoi pas, pour pouvoir travailler de façon professionnelle. Et non pas simplement prendre 4 patients en caution en disant ah oui, c'est bien ça. On a fait avec les patients, on en a pris 4 là qui ont dit oui, des mini oui, on en trouve encore quelques-uns. Non, de pouvoir travailler d'une façon professionnelle, avec anthropologues, avec sociologues et tout, pour pouvoir véritablement réfléchir à ce qui est bien pour nous et co-construire avec nous et co-évaluer, bien entendu.
Sylvie, vous voulez réagir à cette revendication et ce progrès un peu trop lent?
Oui, alors surtout, bon, vous avez évoqué la question de l'autonomie du patient. C'est vrai que je pense que quand on y regarde de près, c'est pas toujours une véritable autonomie qui est laissée au patient. Et je pense par exemple à la situation qui est faite aux patients face à ces médicaments. Bon, aujourd'hui, on prône beaucoup, enfin les pouvoirs publics prônent beaucoup l'automédication parce que bien évidemment, ça fait faire des économies à la sécurité sociale. En même temps, ce qui est dit aux patients, c'est qu'il ne faut surtout pas qu'ils se servent dans sa boîte à pharmacie. Il faut vider la boîte à pharmacie domestique et il faut aller systématiquement demander à un professionnel ce qu'il doit prendre. Alors bien évidemment, qu'il faille demander conseil, ça me semble parfaitement raisonnable. Maintenant, dire aux gens qu'il faut systématiquement aller demander conseil et ne surtout pas chercher à s'automédiquer soi-même, c'est d'une certaine manière dire aux gens, suivez les prescriptions, tout comme vous suiviez les prescriptions de votre médecin, simplement vous payez pour les médicaments. Mais surtout, n'apprenez rien. Et quand vous parliez de l'éducation du patient, on est bien là.
Je vais passer la parole à Laurent Alexandre, donc qui est un des pionniers de l'Internet médical. Par rapport au moment où vous avez lancé les différents sites qui font école maintenant, qu'est-ce que vous voyez comme évolution d'une part et qu'est-ce qui se passe dans l'aide à la décision? Est-ce que l'aide à la décision a vraiment progressé? Quels sont les freins? Quelles sont les dérives? Quelles sont les limites? Comment est-ce que vous voyez ça? Parce que comme vous étiez au début, vous êtes évidemment le témoin le plus privilégié.
D'abord, moi ce qui me frappe beaucoup, c'est qu'il faut aujourd'hui passer par des philosophes comme Luc Ferry pour avoir une vision du futur de la médecine. Oui. Qui s'intéresse au NBIC? Qui en parle? Luc Ferry. Pourquoi? Pourquoi est-on à l'ouest par rapport aux vrais enjeux? Parce qu'on est un microcosme vieillissant et que nous avons une gérontocratie sanitaire avec des gens qui n'ont aucune culture technologique et qui ne comprennent pas ces enjeux. Le seul geek au ministère de la Santé vient de partir aux États-Unis, de dépit. Le seul mec qui comprenait la technologie au ministère de la Santé. Donc effectivement, nous sommes sur des débats atechnologiques et il faut aller chercher des philosophes pour parler de ce que sera la santé de 2025. Nous sommes en réalité, mais moi pareil, il y a 55 ans, je suis effectivement un vieux con et à l'image de notre microcosme, nous sommes un peuple de vieux, une gérontocratie avec des déambulateurs numériques. Nous sommes la génération qui n'est pas digital native et qui ne comprend pas ces enjeux. Et comme nous ne comprenons pas ces enjeux, nous jouons à la bureaucratie, nous gérons des normes, nous nous enfermons dans le droit au lieu d'aller dans les enjeux fondamentaux. Alors, une fois qu'on a dit ça, qui n'est pas forcément très gentil, mais je l'ai dit de façon politique et correcte cette année parce que je suis fatigué.
On est dans la vérité, hein. On est dans la vérité.
Le vrai problème auquel on est confronté aujourd'hui, c'est que, tout à l'heure on m'a dit que j'avais été excessif l'année dernière, je ne le pense pas. C'est qu'en réalité la santé devient 100% numérique à partir du moment où il y a un déluge de data. Je m'excuse de radoter, mais personne ici parmi les médecins n'est capable de traiter les 10 000 milliards de données d'un séquençage ADN d'une tumeur, ce qui est nécessaire pour traiter un patient aujourd'hui, avec sa bite et son couteau en 10 minutes. Donc partant de là, et ce sera la même chose en cognitique, avec les objets connectés, partant de là, on est forcément dans le domaine des systèmes experts. Et si quelqu'un ici est capable de me dire qu'il va analyser les 10 000 milliards de données d'un séquençage ADN pour son cancéreux, eh bien, qu'il vienne m'expliquer comment il va faire. Donc on est forcément dans l'ère du système expert à cause de cette volumétrie. Au niveau mondial, la quantité de données de e-santé double tous les 73 jours. Il n'y a que les bureaucrates du ministère qui pensent qu'on va traiter ça sous la forme actuelle, en responsabilisant les patients et en donnant quelques normes supplémentaires aux docteurs. Cette volumétrie, elle ouvre le champ des systèmes experts et la problématique qui se pose, c'est sont-ils nécessaires? La réponse est oui. Vont-ils apporter quelque chose? La réponse est oui, parce qu'on appelle les externalités. C'est-à-dire que c'est comme pour le téléphone, c'est comme pour un réseau social. Si vous êtes dans un réseau qui compare du génome avec du phénotype, si vous êtes ça apporte rien comme information, c'est comme avoir le téléphone tout seul dans son village, c'est onanique. Et puis si tout le monde y est, ça apporte un avantage considérable et demain, le système expert sera nécessaire à cause de ses externalités de volume. Mais qui dit externalité et qui dit gros volume dit plateformiste. Et donc il y a un avantage énorme aux GAFA. Et on ne va pas opposer les GAFA avec la CNIL, parce que la CNIL est nécessaire, mais effectivement, à force de ne penser que CNIL et bureaucratisation, nous allons ouvrir un Reich numérique de 1000 ans pour les GAFA. Oui, bien sûr. HLI, Watson, etc. Donc aujourd'hui, le problème n'est pas celui de secret et transparence. Bien sûr qu'il faut un peu de secret. Bien sûr qu'il faut expliquer aux patients que c'est pas bien de mettre le scanner de leur cancer du rein métastasé sur Facebook. Bien sûr qu'il faut de la cybersécurité pour que les datas n'arrivent pas en première page de la Pravda ou de la Pravda nord-coréenne. Mais le problème va être sur le contrôle des algorithmes. Les sigles, le philosophe des sciences en 1990 expliquait très bien ce que dit Jules Ferry. Code is law. J'ai dit quoi? C'est un horrible lapsus. Je suis désolé, Luc. Pardon.
Non, mais...
Il est éternel.
Laurent,
regardez,
pour te rassurer, je vais pas te coucher dans son élan.
Je suis mortel, mais lui est conservé.
C'est déjà l'homme qui vivra 1000 ans.
Je vous signale simplement que Chirac me l'a faite à l'entretien du 14 juillet à l'Élysée. Donc c'était quand même plus grave parce qu'il y avait quand même 10 millions de Français qui étaient pliés en deux.
Je suis confus. Mais quand je dis du mal des fonctionnaires, je finis par faire des lapsus. Code is law. Le vrai pouvoir demain, il est dans le code informatique. Et en médecine, il sera dans le code des logiciels. Le problème, c'est qu'il va falloir réguler tout ça. Mais qu'on n'a pas de régulateur. Mais le problème n'est pas que dans la santé. On a bien vu que les gens de l'EPA aux États-Unis sur les contrôles anti-pollution étaient des cadors en chimie et des cons comme une bite en informatique. Et donc ils se sont fait baiser par Volkswagen parce que le problème des émissions, c'est plus un problème de chimie, c'est un problème d'informatique. Il faut aller lire les lignes de code dans les moteurs. Oui, bien sûr. En matière de santé, on a 1000 couches de bureaucratie. On n'a pas une seule couche capable de dire quelque chose d'intelligent sur les systèmes experts, l'intelligence artificielle et sur les hautes couches de l'aide à la décision informatique. Donc il faut mettre du geek parmi les élites, il faut rajeunir nos élites, il faut des nouvelles élites si on veut comprendre ce monde qui vient et éviter d'être vassalisé. Car notre problème, je le répète, c'est pas la dialectique secret-transparence qui est facile à gérer. Notre problème, c'est autonomie versus vassalisation. Qui va posséder les systèmes experts? Et je radote, là encore par rapport à l'année dernière, des systèmes experts à l'échelle mondiale, il y en aura entre 2 et 10. Chacun coûtera entre 5 et 20 milliards de dollars. C'est pas le CPAM du Limousin qui va créer le sien. Même si elle pense qu'elle va le créer, avec la grande crame aquitaine, machin, voilà. Non, je plaisantais. Donc on a un vrai problème aujourd'hui, qui est comment évitons la vassalisation numérique dans la santé qui va arriver aussi vite que dans les autres domaines et comme d'habitude, on ne va pas l'avoir vu venir. En musique, en cinéma, dans la publicité, les GAFA nous ont écrabouillés, vous savez bien. Dans l'automobile, on n'a pas voulu voir arriver la self-driving car et elle arrive. Et vous connaissez les enjeux industriels. Il n'est pas certain que Peugeot sera encore vivant en 2025. C'est-à-dire, nous prenons sur la première industrie française, qui est l'industrie automobile, un risque majeur aujourd'hui. On va faire la même connerie sur la santé. Donc il faut de l'expertise, il faut aller vers les vrais enjeux qui sont la maîtrise des systèmes experts rendus indispensables par l'explosion de la volumétrie de la santé. Aujourd'hui, on n'en prend pas le chemin. On n'en prend pas le chemin parce que c'est normal. À notre âge, on reste sur notre zone de confort, c'est-à-dire la régulation à la papa des années 80. Comment on crée un NHS avec 50 000 pages de texte par an? Il va falloir, à côté de la nécessaire régulation, et je ne dis pas qu'il ne faut pas de bureaucratie dans la santé, il va falloir aujourd'hui une vraie réflexion prospective. Comment existe-t-on face aux GAFA? Comment intègre-t-on l'ensemble de ces systèmes experts? Et trouve-t-on un équilibre entre une logique de plateformiste et les logiques CNIL? Il y a un immense chantier à ouvrir. Ce chantier, il est urgent, ce chantier n'est pas ouvert, il n'a pas été ouvert par la loi Touraine, et la loi Touraine aujourd'hui ne nous permet pas de construire des gens qui permettraient d'avoir des plateformistes européens ou français. La loi Touraine aujourd'hui conduit directement, je le répète, à un Reich numérique de Milan pour les GAFA et autres acteurs du numérique. Nous sommes à côté, complètement à côté des enjeux de souveraineté. On va se faire baiser en santé comme on s'est fait baiser déjà dans une dizaine de secteurs industriels. Il y a le feu au lac.
Claire. Voilà qui est clair. Alors, je le passe la parole. Alors, mon général. Mon général, franchement, qu'est-ce qu'on fait? Vraiment, on est prêt à s'engager. On a besoin de vous. Hein? Chamonix needs you. Alors, qu'est-ce qu'on fait? On s'engage ou est-ce qu'on signe? Mon général, en tant que caporal-chef, cadre de réserve, je m'adresse à vous. Jules Ferry s'adressera à vous en avant-première post-mortem direct. Car nous sommes vraiment dans le numérique absolu, dans le téléchargement des personnes. Nous sommes mieux qu'Angoulême en BD. Mon général, mes respects, avec impatience et terreur. Est-ce qu'il y a encore un secret dans l'armée?
Merci.
Yes, thank you for handing me the microphone and asking me to calm things down a bit, maybe. Yes, I'm not remotely connected with my cardiologist. I'm in a risky position at the moment. Yes, the first question that came up that was asked of Luc Ferry concerned secrecy. The question that one might ask is, how do you protect your secrets? Now, in aviation, there's a saying that we share with young pilots. Speed is life, we say. And I tend to say that intelligence is life. That's my own saying. In other words, the person with the information also has an advantage, a determining advantage over somebody else without that information. So we have been out to look for information. There was the notion of economic intelligence that came out in the 80s. Companies at that time tried to see what was happening in other companies, but while protecting themselves from other people's intrusions. Now, things have changed a lot since then, and today we live in a world that has been entirely digitized. It's entirely connected, and today this overall space that is surrounding our planet, this overall space contains all of the information as it circulates: defense information, medical information, we've been talking about that, economic information, social information, and political information. So in the world that we live in today, I think we've got to be careful what we say, but I think we are at war. I think we are at war in this cyberspace. And that war, well, we've got to face it. We've got to face it. We've got to protect ourselves against it. But we've also got to attack. Now, how can we see this war? Well, we see it in individuals. Each of us is subject to attacks, emails that we receive asking for our bank details, and they seem to be normal mails. Small companies are impacted by what we refer to as presidential crooks. It's something that happens all the time. There are companies that have the wool pulled over their eyes, and they lose 100,000 euros. We can move up a step. We can move up to the level of major companies. I'll give you some examples later on. We can even go up to state level. States are also attacked, cyber attacked. Now, coming back to the question of defense, today the operations that can be carried out are quite different from the operations that might have been carried out in the past. In the field, you know, the flag bearer is connected, the drone is connected, the fighter plane is connected, the boat is connected. All of the information that circulates is transmitted via satellites, and the control of operations is not in the field itself. Afghanistan, for example, control was in Atlanta in the United States. So information at a given point in time produced by a drone observing an area and saying, here there is something that might be being attacked. All of that is analyzed immediately. So the information goes via satellites at 300,000 kilometers a second, and the order is given to the drone either to attack or to the patrol in the air to attack. But General, how can we guarantee the transmission security of this data? Yes, I'm getting there. Yes, but speed is life, you said. Speed is life. My name is Old Speedy. Yes, I am an old guy, but I'm speedy. Yes. First of all, before trying to protect ourselves, it's important to know what the threat is. Where does it come from? Now, for companies or individuals, it can come from a small hacker who pinches an account and tries to get money out of it. But the attack can come from more structured organizations. For example, organizations that are mafia organizations, because there's this gray, nebulous area where you have the mafia groups circulating. They have considerable resources. We don't know everything about them, and we can't detect them properly. So the attack can come from states directly. I can take the example of the attack that was produced on Sony Pictures after the appearance of the film The Interview, I think it was called, or in North Korea, where a company like Sony Picture was collapsed because all of the information was stolen, because films that had not yet been produced were published online. The company was terribly impacted by all of this. There are other examples. For example, what the Americans did and the Israelis did when they developed the Stuxnet virus that attacked centrifugal equipment in nuclear plants in Iran. This made 40,000 computers collapse, and it stopped the plants. So we're talking about new infectious diseases, if we want to refer to pasta. Yes, infectious diseases, because we don't know how to deal with these. We don't know how to deal with viruses like Stuxnet. For example, Russia attacking Estonia. Russia attacking Estonia. It doesn't attack Estonia directly because its attack mode is based on going via hackers and shooters. So the Estonian attack seemed to come from the United States, and the whole system had to be dismantled in order to find out that it was Russia behind the attack. Why Estonia? Well, because Estonia is very good at cyber defense. Estonia has an excellent center for cyber defense, and Russia attacked Estonia. So you did ask a question. I'm sorry, I'm getting there rather slowly. How can we protect ourselves? That was the question. Well, first of all, we have to become aware of the fact, even individuals I'm talking about, we have to become aware of the fact that there is a certain amount of discipline that we have to maintain. All attacks, whether we're talking about on Sony Pictures or TV5 World, the TV channel, are produced because some individuals were not cautious enough in companies. They opened mails that they should not have opened. And so the attackers were able to get into the system, wait, and then demolish the system. Now, at state level, we need to see awareness when it comes to cyber defense. This is what we saw with different white books on cyber defense. The first white paper dated back to 1994. Today, cyber defense is a national cause. It's a national cause. Cyber defense has led to a certain number of resources being made available. There are 1 billion euros for a military programming. So there are resources in Brittany, for example. We don't know why it's in Brittany. There are excellent centers that have been set up in Bruges. Are you attacking my region, General? Because I'll have to defend it if you are. No, in Lannion. Are you talking about Lannion? Yes. Yes, that part of Brittany. So the DGA set up a research excellence center providing resources to fight against cyber attacks. Now, today, we cannot continue without talking about the main threat that is out there in the field, and that is Daesh. Daesh, ISIS, is attacking us every day. Every day, we are subject to attacks from Daesh. In the world, in 2014, outside of Daesh, which is a specific case, there were 43 million IT attacks across the world. That means that every day, 120,000 attacks are made in all sectors of life, banks, companies, individuals, 120,000 a day. The Defense Ministry in France was attacked 150 times in 2013, 800 times in 2014, and in 2015, the number is going up. Since the attacks at the start of January, Daesh has set up an increasing number of organizations. For example, you have the Islamic United Cyber Army, which comes from Indonesia. It attacks, it destroys sites, it recovers data. You've got the Middle East Cyber Force, the Filiga team, the Global Revolution. All of these are Daesh organizations, ISIS organizations, people who on a daily basis send out attacks. Now, why do they do this? Why do they attack? They attack to justify what they're doing, to show that they are stronger than what they really are. They make these attacks in order to terrify people. You see all the videos of assassinations. But these videos that are online, they're not videos where you see people being, see their throats being cut. This is a kind of a video that is organized and prepared so that there is the best possible visual result on our societies. It's horrible to say that. There is to say that an individual who's been condemned to death actually appears in a film that has been carefully prepared beforehand. And then you have all of the propaganda. So we have to fight against that. And what Laurent was saying, when there are enemies, what do we do? Well, you know, we're continually fighting against this. We have to set up our defenses. Today, there is a risk of an airline plane being taken over. Imagine that happening without the crew being able to do anything. Now, today with Daesh, they can't do it because they need to have satellites. They need to have a certain number of things. But the GAO, the American court, asked the United States, and this applies to us, to harden IT systems in planes because the plane is permanently connected. It's connected with its airline, etc. The passenger is also permanently connected. They play with internet and what have you. So all of that has to be protected because it's vulnerable. So there are technical specifications that are set up to prevent this kind of thing from happening. Now, when it comes to defense itself, and I'll finish with this, a whole system has been set up. There's an operational system that starts from the programming center and the operational control center in Ballard. It was in Rue Saint-Dominique in the past. And from there, so there is a cell with a general officer, there is the States Major, and they follow and detect any attacks. Then there is the CALID, the Center for Analyzing and Fighting Against IT Problems. It's an operational unit, and as soon as there is a problem, it goes out into the field. And then, and this concerns units in the field, there are people who are in charge of detecting attacks as soon as they happen, or risks. There are individuals in the field, soldiers, who are in contact with their family via Skype, for example. Today, they're not allowed to give their names. The United States was attacked in Iraq. They were able to recover the names of a certain number of soldiers. They recovered their addresses in the United States. They put all of that online, saying that these people have to be killed. You can see, you know, the extent of the risks and threats that we have to protect ourselves against. Now, at national level, in France, there's the National Agency for IT Security. There are 500 people working for that at the moment. It's going to go up to 800 people. And these people are in charge of responding to the first problem that occurs. Well, thank you for all of this information. So our title should not be Secrecy and Transparency, but vassalization or destruction. Is that right, General? Yes, yes. And it concerns all layers. The Bundestag was attacked in May, and it's only just getting back up on its feet. All of the information concerning meetings that had been secret was recovered. We don't know who to thank in that kind of situation, right? Who do we thank? And the invoice is quite high as well. Yeah, we've got to work on characterizing threats as well. Who attacked you? You know, when it's an Islamic network, it's clearer. But when you have this kind of attack, it's not always clear who is behind it. So you can have the Islamic networks, you've got the mafia networks, and other networks. So, you know, you've got a 10% religious aspect and a 90% gangster aspect to some of these networks. Yes, it's reassuring to see that our general is better than our Minister for Health and knows exactly what is happening. So people who are aware, I could listen to you for hours and hours without interrupting you. It's very interesting what you have to say. So he's a geek with stripes on his arm, yes. So I think that what Laurent said is also very important. I'd just like to share with you something that concerns myself, an experience that concerns myself. So we're very much behind with all of these issues in the philosophical sector. I was with two philosophers that are very well known the other day. They're not here. I won't mention their names. So I was talking to them about transhumanism, DNBC. I invited them to read your book, Laurent. So we can't, you know, just look at all of that from the side. There's post-humanism. You know, when we've got a species that is no longer the human species, what are we going to see? We're going to be moving towards hyperhumanism. This is what Mr. René was saying. So this transhumanism, it's already there. We've already got the issues. The technology is there. We've got everything it takes. My colleagues were saying, well, it's all science fiction. We don't believe in it. Aging is not a disease. So they were, you know, not in line with a reality, you know, this Third Reich that is digital. And I'm not being ironic. We can't just have the Data Protection Act in France. In the philosophical, intellectual, and political sectors, we are light years away from understanding that it's not a question of science fiction, that it is the reality, and that what we're doing for corn or cattle, there's no reason, but even we can talk about it, there's no reason that we can't do this for human beings. And the other day I was reading your paper, Laurent. I'd heard of your paper beforehand on the fact that a Chinese team modified the genome of embryo cells on 43, and this is something that will happen. The subject is already there. It's on the table. So imagining that it's for 20 years' time and that it's all science fiction and it's dreams of bad writers, that's absolutely absurd. The other day, I was with Jean-François Lemoine. I'm a big friend of his, and I was talking about DNBC. And there was a group of doctors there, and they came up to me and said, "What is NBNC?" They said, "What does this acronym mean?" And I think that NBIC, I thought it went, you know, everybody knew what it was, but there are many doctors who are very intelligent who had never actually heard of it. There was the boss of a big Swiss weekly who said, NBIC, I don't know what it is. So, you know, we have there's a deficit. The Google car as well. There are Audis, Priuses that have already covered hundreds and thousands of kilometers, especially this summer. 4 states were covered by the Google car, thousands of kilometers without any accidents actually occurring.
Quasiment rien.
So almost no accidents. They had even Google trucks, huge trucks that were driving all over the place. And just like for Toyota's Prius, Renault and Peugeot follow the train, but 5, 6, 7 years behind. Those are light years in the world, in the automotive world. When we talk about this Google car, the reactions in France are generally reactions just like transhumanism or NBICs. It's very ironic. Oh, well, then people will no longer drive their cars? Even my concierge wouldn't say such silly things. And I think in France, we're really ignoring this reality. The Google car is arriving. This will change the automotive world. There will be less accidents. So for the insurance companies, it's bad news. So in the world of the future, time will be the most precious good, the most expensive, the rarest. To be able to transform your car into a connected office will be a real plus. It will be extraordinary. It will solve problems of driving licenses and alcoholism at the wheel, especially in Brittany, that region of France. Now, you're going to, there will be less roundabouts. And yes, you're right. Okay. I know that when Laurent speaks, people are always a bit jealous or irritated when they hear him speak. There's the most powerful passion in democracy is often jealousy. And so de Tocqueville analyzed this very well. But it's really good to hear Laurent and to hear you, General, saying these things, people who are aware of what's going on. And unlike most of our fellow citizens who have their head in their sand and they're 20 years behind, including our politicians, 20 years behind the GEFA. It's wonderful to have this data protection agency in France, the CNIL. But now, the more you talk, the more I'm jealous because you're so good. So now I need to turn the floor to Sylvie. Well, I agree that data sovereignty is a very important question, but I'm a bit uncomfortable when you just reject this idea of the questions which I think are also a huge challenge, which is placing human beings in the center, the question of protection and information. We talked about lies. I think yesterday there were a certain number of questions that were raised in the other roundtables. We learned that there was also connected agriculture, but we need information on the individual data about the cows. Well, about cows, I don't think that's a big challenge in terms of confidentiality, and cows' private lives is not very much of a preoccupation for us. But when we're talking about human individuals and we're talking about information, I don't think it's sufficient to say the information should be protected. It's true that we do have a law in France that protects information, but when you look at the details, you realize that information is not the same for everyone. There are inequalities in terms of access to information, and these are social inequalities, and I think we need to make progress in this respect. There's another little comment I'd like to make, a brief comment about the question of transhumanism. I think the problem is not the question of understanding whether it's science fiction or not. It's also to see that we are here in a situation that encourages health inequalities. So I think there's some questions that we will really have to address if we want to place human beings back at the center. Gérard? Not for us, but with us. Yes, with us. I think the first thing to do is to educate people, inform people, train people. Today, there's no concern in terms of data security for the lost medical record. We have no problem with the security of data. The concern is the data that patients give with their connected devices on the social networks constantly and completely ignorantly. Sometimes they share this information, and many patients and citizens are completely ignorant of these threats that we've just heard about that are weighing above our heads, and constantly they communicate data that tomorrow, if we're not careful, if we don't look and try to have counterpowers and to have a genuine reflection about what can preserve our democracy and our humanity and the ethics of our philosophy, we will have another Reich. And I think there's a real necessity today, and this is the responsibility of the patients' associations, to inform all of our fellow citizens of the risks that we run for sharing the data about our weight or other things. We need to work in terms of counterpowers, a balance of power. So who is interested in this data? Well, it goes up to the cloud, but so I think here again we need to work to set up real, what I would call counterpowers with respect to determine who is interested in our personal data. Obviously, the insurance companies, the healthcare insurance, but maybe entrepreneurs or heads of companies. Other structures might be interested in finding our healthcare data. And I think it's up to the associations and other authorities to set up counterpowers to protect this data so that tomorrow we don't end up with a real dictatorship. Yes, I wanted to add among the risks that we can see with respect to data, one risk is the risk that the pharmaceutical industry would take over this data and identify the patients who will be the least likely to develop side effects and include those patients in clinical trials. And this would really create a bias in the clinical trials. So you mean something like Volkswagen, a little cheating software? Yes, you see that you've touched upon something quite interesting. I'm just saying that's a risk. If we prevent the pharmaceutical industry from having access to healthcare data, we will no longer have any healthcare industry. So there's a given moment where if we say human needs to be at the heart, technically we're saying things that are completely absurd, I think. I have no interest in the pharmaceutical industry, but that's stupid what we're hearing. If people who invented drugs don't have access to healthcare data, there will no longer be healthcare industry. Excuse me, there's a distinction, a very important distinction to be made between access to health data and access to name-based, nominative health data. You've explained this. We heard our minister explain this yesterday with respect to Article 47 that introduces that difference. Thank you. General, would you like to add a comment? Yes. I have two things to add. In conclusion, you should never open a new debate. But I would just like to say that there is an offensive IT battle underway. There is a possibility to fight and hurt the enemy, and we are implementing this right now. There are resources. There is a way to defend ourselves. The only point is that I think the French state, is really aware of the problem today, and that's a good point. And thirdly, today, this cyber war at the start of the 21st century is comparable to the arrival of aviation in the early 20th century, which completely revolutionized the world. And today, we are at the very beginning of this cyber war. Thank you, Laurent. We shouldn't oppose people's viewpoints around this table. Cybersecurity around data is fundamental. Educating patients so that they don't put their kidney cancer on Facebook, that's also fundamental. But we should react. That's what's very urgent today. This challenge of sovereignty means, will there not be European platforms dedicated to diagnoses, or will all of the diagnoses, decision support, and artificial intelligence and expert systems, will they become Chinese and from the Silicon Valley? In that case, in France, we will no longer control our healthcare system. Given the volume of data that I was talking about earlier, it's those systems that will be making the decisions for us. It'll be naive to think that in medicine of tomorrow, the doctors will decide. It will be the expert system that will decide in the future. It's sad, and as a doctor, I'm very sad to see it, but that's reality. Just one last word on the exercise of philosophy. That's why you were nice enough to invite me. What I find very regrettable today is that almost all of my colleagues, most of my colleagues, are always invited to a round table as a moralist. And it's this demand that we were given every time, Bernard-Henri Lévy, Winkelkraut, Michel Onfray, me. Well, I'm in the same trap as a philosopher. you're the only philosopher who's not a moralist. You know that I love you, but I find this really, I'm full of consternation when I see this, because Kant said even a child of 12 years old knows what to do. I'm never waking up in the morning with existential questions. Existential questions actually are more important than moral questions. When you have someone next to you who you adore who's going to die of terrible cancer, it completely eats you up 10 times more than knowing whether you're going to be sorting embryos in university hospitals. That can be a question for ethical committees, but in my real life, I care about the people close to me. Philosophy is to understand the present and to know what we need to elaborate. One last sentence by Hegel. Hegel said, philosophy is 100 years captured in thought. Then we can give a moral judgment afterwards. But let's understand what's happening, and then we can lay down the rules and think about whether transhumanism will make us more human or less human. But that's the fundamental question posed. 100... No, I know we have to start because we've gone over our time. 100 years captured in a thought. With a thought, our time is already over. We've already gone over our time. But what really struck me, and this is what Guy said in the beginning, Sham, we thought that Sham was talking about the future and not the present. But actually, this is the present that we're talking about. And I think the alert is in two steps. The first step is to learn. We need to learn, but we don't understand. But the second step, which I think is much more important, is to believe in what we know when we will finally know. Thank you.